You are the problem. That's what I started hearing from people around me, from online friends to real life friends and even family. And when you hear something like that over and over again, you start asking yourself a few questions. What exactly is the problem, and when did all of this even start? Am I really the problem? Why does everyone tell me I'm the problem, but nobody actually asks me what the problem is? I decided to take each question one by one, thinking about how long this had been happening, because I generally started to wonder if maybe I was doing something wrong. And the funny thing is, when someone keeps repeating that you're the problem, you eventually start believing it, even if it doesn't make any sense. So I asked myself, okay, but what exactly? Because nobody ever told me anything concrete. People just throw the label at you and run. So I started analyzing moments. When did things change? What did I say or do? And most of the time, I wasn't even doing something big. Sometimes it was just that I wasn't available at the exact moment they wanted me. Other times, I didn't react the way they expected. And while thinking about all this, I realized something important. You're not always the problem because you did something wrong. Sometimes you're the problem because people around you can't control you. The more I thought about it, the more I saw a strange pattern. Every time someone told me I was the problem, those situations all had one thing in common. Nobody was willing to listen to my side. It was always their version of events, and I was expected to accept it without discussion. So I asked myself, why would I be the problem when nobody even knows what I'm feeling? And the truth is, sometimes people don't want answers. They want a culprit. Most of the time, the perfect culprit is a person who stays quiet, the person who avoids conflict, the person who tries to keep the peace. Exactly the kind of person I was. But at the same time, I need to acknowledge my own part in this. I realized that my silence created confusion. I avoided saying what bothered me. I avoided conflict. I avoided responding directly because I didn't want to hurt anyone. I thought I was avoiding the problems. But in reality, I was letting them grow behind me like a zombie spawner you forget to place torches on. And then I'd be asked, why didn't you say anything earlier? And I just sit there with no answers because I didn't even know myself. So I started thinking seriously about my own behavior. Maybe sometimes I did mess up, maybe I reacted impulsively when I was stressed, maybe I closed myself off too quickly, maybe I was too distant, maybe I gave zero context for my actions and that put people in a confusing position. And here's the interesting part. Every time I tried to talk things out like an adult, people disappeared, evaporated, no longer interested in the conversation. It was easier to say I was the problem than to sit in an uncomfortable, honest discussion. That's when something clicked. You're not always the problem because you did something wrong. Sometimes you're the problem because people don't want to look at their part. After realizing all of this, I started looking at my relationship differently. I asked myself, who are the people who actually want to solve things? And who are the people who just want to be right? And trust me, the difference between those groups become very clear over time. The first group is tiny, and I mean extremely tiny. These are the people who, no matter what happens, are willing to sit down, listen, talk, and find a solution. Even if you upset them, even if you mess up, they don't disappear, they don't throw blame at you and walk away. They're present, they share their side, and they listen to yours. The second group is pretty much the rest of the world. People who call you only to complain, people who get upset over nothing, people who blame you for things you've never done, people who ask for honestly but can't handle hearing it, people who find it easier to make you the villain. And at some point, I realized I was trying to hold on to people who didn't even want to be there. Some were only around as long as I was convenient for them. Once it wasn't, they vanished. Sometimes without explanation, other times with excuses that didn't even make sense. And I think this entire story taught me something important. Just because someone keeps accusing you doesn't mean they're right. Sometimes it's just a projection of their own frustrations. Sometimes it's their way of avoiding responsibility. Sometimes you walk into their life at a moment when they don't even understand themselves. But here's the good part. When you start recognizing these patterns, you start feeling free. You stop carrying other people's guilt. You start accepting that you're not obligated to be anyone's emotional punching bag. And that's when the real realization hit me. I wasn't the problem. I was just the easiest person to blame. And once I understand that, I started setting boundaries, saying no, stopping myself from explaining every tiny detail of my life, letting go of relationships that only worked when I suited others. And ironically, that's when my life actually became quieter, simpler, more real. You can be a good person and still not be someone's favorite. You can have good intentions and still be labeled the problem, and that's perfectly fine, because in the end, the right people won't just leave because you're having a bad day, and more importantly, they don't need to tear you down to feel better about themselves. After everything that happened, after months of hearing those words, "you're the problem," I finally reached a conclusion I never thought I would. You're not the problem just because someone says so. Sometimes people project, sometimes they use you as a shield, and sometimes they simply don't know how to communicate. And maybe the hardest truth to accept is this: not all relationships are meant to survive the version of you that starts respecting yourself. But that's not a bad thing, that's growth. I realized that every "you're the problem" was actually an invitation to understand myself better, to analyze my reactions, to understand my limits, to accept my mistakes, but also protect the good parts of me. It was a kind of forced reset, but a necessary one. And the better I understood myself, the clearer I saw people around me who genuinely values me, who respects me, who just needed a version of me that stayed quiet and agreeable. And now, looking back, I truly believe life isn't about being perfect, but about being honest with yourself. Because when you start saying what you feel and setting boundaries, some people will suddenly see you as the problem. But the truth is, that's the moment you finally become authentic. And if I learned anything from all of this, is this: sometimes the path to a better version of yourself begins the moment someone tells you that you are the problem, and that it's completely okay.